Did you have anything to do with the of Tupac Shakur?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I wasn't even in the matter. I wasn't in the matter, period.
Do you regret the book and the interview?
Yeah, I was just after the money, and they said I was tough. I did it for the money. You know what I'm saying? And
but did anyone tell you maybe it's not a good idea to do that because they might arrest you after they hear you say that or read it in your book? Like, did anyone close to you say, not a good idea?
That was the ghostwriters. I didn't write that book. You know, I don't know nothing about no Winston Churchill, Frank Sinatra. Just read the book. You know I didn't write that book. You know what I'm saying? And the Vlad thing, the lady, she gave me $150,000.
But then when I was watching the interview this week, and the way you sort of go through it by play, like then this happened, it's very believable.
They wrote me a script to follow. My lawyer came with the script. It seemed like he was in bed with them the whole time.
When you were talking in this interview about Tupac's murder, and when you were doing this book, were you considering maybe his family at all?
No, I just did it for the money. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to feed my family. You know what I'm saying? And it's wrong. It's just wrong. I'm an innocent man. And they said, yeah, Chris, I haven't been around that stuff since like 89. I stopped that stuff, pulled up my pants. I'm not no leader or Crips or none of that stuff. That's wrong. They just try to make their case look good or something. He's a leader of the Crips. He's way up there in the Crips. No, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? There's no color line. I'm messing with Bloods, Crips, everybody. You know what I'm saying? I just wasn't the leader of the Crips. I helped some like get that record company together. You know what I'm saying? And why would the guy that's making us the most money? You know what I'm saying? That's rapper back then. Why would I our money like that? It don't make sense. So I'm not going to tell you that I didn't do it. So,
has the DA's office offered you any plea deals, and would you consider a plea deal?
I'm not going to take no plea deal because I didn't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm 63. I had a cancer battle, and I got 3 stents to my heart. And the average American lives to about 74 years old. 10 years, I'm dead. So what I don't like taking the deal, you know what I'm saying? I heard it was like something 10 to 25. I'm not gonna do that, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna take a deal like that. And I have, especially after I haven't done nothing. I'm an innocent man.
How concerned are you that you'll be convicted after this trial and you won't get to spend your final years with your family?
Yeah, I think the Ninth Circuit Court is gonna let me go. I think they're gonna let me go because it's not right. I'm gonna be all right though, because God upstairs, he got me. He know I am this. Yeah, and I hate I put my family in jeopardy like this. So that's one little regret I have.
So you seen that, you heard that. So, and the man charged with the biggest unsolved in hip-hop history just looked at a 10 to 25 year plea deal and said, nah, not interested. So 30 years after we lost Tupac Shakur, Keefe D is taking this thing all the way to trial. All eyes are officially on Las Vegas. Welcome back to the Clout Report, where clout gets counted. But tonight, the stakes are way heavier than clout. Let's talk about it.
And you said that Tupac pulled out a gun.
It looked like he was reaching, yeah. Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you actually see a gun?
No, shit. Once he got the reaching, I got the ducking.
So someone from your car
That's what happened.
started shooting at Tupac and Shook.
Lane starts blasting. You say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you.
Yeah, he looked at me.
Okay. When he looks over at you, and then Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
In
of
the
the
back
line.
seat or something.
Yeah. What do you see happening inside of
He
their
jumping
car?
in. I seen a bullet going Suge head. I thought he was dead.
So Orlando shot
Who's this guy?
across Dre?
He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window, popped.
Who was it?
They was drove on my side. I was popped them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Right.
I'm not gonna go into details on that one. Keep it streets, homie. I ain't gonna go into detail on that.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and read from the book.
Well,
So
let them buy the book then.
the shit was on. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. It was the first and only time in my life that I could relate to the police command. Keep your hands where I could see them. Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back.
Duane Keefe D. Davis, the only man ever charged in the 1996 unaliving of Tupac Shakur, went on Channel 8 earlier today in Las Vegas and completely shut down in any plea talks himself. Quote, "I'm not going to take no plea deal because I didn't do nothing." The reported offer was somewhere between 10 to 25 years. His math is, look, I'm 63. I've already fought cancer. I got heart problems. Average American man makes it to about 74. In his words, why would I sign that? At his age, 10 to 25 years isn't just a sentence. It's a life sentence. So for him, it's literally me against the world. And he's betting the rest of his life on 12 jurors. And his attorney went further, said no deal was ever formally on the table, and that he wouldn't advise his client to take anything short of a complete dismissal. That's right, dismissal. Not even reduced charges, zero. That's not a defense posture. That's a declaration. So look, before we get into the legal chess, I need to take y'all somewhere personal for a second. Just because for some of y'all, like Tupac is a t-shirt, but for me, he was a little more than that. I grew up watching this story live when he passed away. I was 19. So me and my friends, we looked up to Pac in some regards. Not everything that he was doing, because he did some amazing things and some things that were not that amazing. Even as a kid, we could see that maybe that's not the best, but he was like a mix of really incredible and some really other behaviors that were kind of like really like puzzling, just really like head scratching. Like how does one person do both? That's the best. How does one person do both? Can that really be the same person that we're talking about? Because we saw him acting, and me and my friends are like, we thought he was incredibly talented as an actor, as a rapper. And then he got into some trouble, which that was really puzzling because he seemed like really genuine, but he also seemed pretty like hot tempered. Like he wouldn't shy away from that conflict either, which as we age, you know, that's something that we learn to do, is to kind of steer clear of even potential conflicts. We try to avoid the drama, not to just say, well, you know, if it come my way, it is what it is. You know, as we get older, we want to try to limit that kind of exposure as much as possible. So anyway, so it was definitely impactful, and you know, I still remember somewhat vaguely. I mean, we're talking about over 30 years ago, so, or I guess roughly around about 30 years now. But I remember I was listening to a radio station when they made the announcement, because I already heard about the 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 incident after the Mike Tyson fight or whatever on the strip, and but then there were some reports that were pretty pretty benign, that came out, that he was in the hospital, he was stable, and it kind of gave the impression that this was going to work out. You know, as a 19-year-old, I assumed that he would pull through anyway. You know, and this is really incredibly uh, naive and even ignorant logic, but I remember thinking that, well, you know, he had been shot before. He'll I'm sure he'll pull through. You know, like almost like if you are experienced at being shot, that's gonna like somehow help you. I remember thinking that, and then I believe my grandmother was saying, you know, something kind of contrary to that, because she was really worried about his well-being, and uh, and when the reports started to come out that he was stabilizing, or he was better, there was a kind of a pretty picture being painted, that, you know, yeah, he's in critical condition, but he's stable right now. Things are you know, kind of stable. I remember that being a part of some report that was being either on the news or on the radio, something like that. And then out of nowhere, he was gone. So that was the blind side for me, and maybe others too during that era, because I'm sure I wasn't alone that got the report that he was doing better, or he was at least stable. So that kind of um, gave maybe the illusion, or the assumption that this may work out. So, and I remember, like, on the radio, whatever station that was, I don't know if that was the Beat or K Day or whatever, one of these old school radio stations I was listening to pretty religiously at that time. But I remember it was like people calling back to back to back to back, you know, giving their stories, and it was just like, I was just like in shock. I remember I was in shock for a long time. Like, I'm blindsided. Just knew he made it through. So yeah, that's my story. Um, and that's why, you know, 30 years later, um, in in Pac's immortal words, you know, life goes on. You know, but this case still matters, and it's not just a court date. This is unfinished business for a culture, for the hip hop culture. You know. Okay. So back to the courtroom. So how does a man who talked about this case for years plan to just walk out? Based on what his defense has signaled, it's a 4-pillar strategy. Pillar one, the confessions. His attorney has already said he's challenging the admissibility of of Keefe D's statements from the jump, you know, in opening arguments. and understanding the confessions are the case, basically the memoir, Compton Street Legend, the VladTV sit down, the BET interview. If those get suppressed or discredited, the prosecution spine goes with them. Pillar 2, the entertainment defense. Keefe's team said those confessions were a financial ploy. A dying man with cancer selling street legend to feed his family. Checkbook journalism, not testimony. And here's the uncomfortable part. In a culture where everybody knows image gets embellished a little bit for the camera, right? A jury might actually buy that. Only God can judge me? Nah, not at all. 12 people from Clark County about to judge. And they've all seen how the internet works. Pillar 3, the immunity angle. For years, Keefe's side has pointed to his cooperation with the Joint Police Task Force back in late 2000s. The claim being he only started talking under a proffer agreement, believing he was protected. If the defense convinces the court those original statements were fruit of that arrangement, everything downstream gets muddy. He's now even demanding an apology from law enforcement. That's not a legal strategy per se. That's narrative strategy. He's running a public "they did me wrong" campaign parallel to the courtroom. Changes? Nah. Same playbook as every high-profile defendant with a camera nearby. Pillar 4, no receipts. It's been 30 years, no weapon recovered. Every other person in the Cadillac is dead at this point. And now Keefe is claiming he wasn't even in Nevada that night. A direct alibi claim 30 years late. The defense wants the jury asking one question besides this man's own mouth: what do you actually have? Which seems pretty valid. Now, the state side. Prosecutors have called the evidence overwhelming. It's part of why this trial got pushed to now. Their argument is simple. No innocent man confesses this many times in this much detail on this many platforms. Ambitions as a writer is one thing, but putting yourself in the car on camera repeatedly is another. Jury selection starts August 10th. 30 years of questions come down to one Vegas courtroom. Here's my honest read. This is the highest stakes bet in hip hop legal history. If the confessions come in, they're devastating. If they get suppressed or reframed as paid storytelling, the state may not have enough left. Keefe D just went all in with the last years of his life as the chips. And whatever happens, I need us to keep the main thing the main thing. This isn't content for Tupac's family. A mother lost her son. A culture lost maybe its greatest voice at 25 years old. How long will they mourn him? 30 years and counting. So, however this trial ends, keep your head up and picture Pac how he won. Not as a case number, as a comet. So, talk to me. Did Keefe D make the right call rejecting 10 to 25 at 63 years old? Does the entertainment defense actually work on a 2026 jury? And where were you when you first heard Tupac? Stories in the comments. Best ones get read on the next stream. I ain't mad at you either way. This is the Clout Report, where the clout gets counted. Trial coverage starts August 10th. We'll be here. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.